MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
It sounded like a bomb. That's how one resident described a crash in Butte over the weekend that found a car inside an apartment building. Coming up, the latest on the driver and the investigation into the crash.
I'm Jonathan Amberian in Helena. I'll have a closer look at what led to an electronic absentee ballot system for voters living overseas to be taken down temporarily last week after some ballots displayed incorrectly.
President Biden's high-stakes swan song before world leaders. I'm Jared Hill outside the United Nations headquarters in New York with what's expected today as tensions escalate in the Middle East.
Behind me is a development that is set to have affordable housing come online in the next couple of years. Coming up, I'll tell you what Boseman's mayor had to say about where the city stands on affordable housing and what residents had to say.
Alrighty, it is 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Jane McDonald and Matt Elwell with you bright and early. It is September, I missed it, 24th. Here we go.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I feel like we just started the month of September.
Counting the days away, and this is the first full week of fall for us, right?
Yep.
Fall started on Sunday, and man, feels more like summer.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's warm out there. It was beautiful yesterday.
I don't think anybody's complaining about that, especially after the wet week we had, and now we're kind of drying out. Temperatures this morning a little cool. We're needing some jackets for the kids as they head out the door for the morning. It's not going to last long, though. I expect our daytime temperatures to build pretty quickly with nearly full sunshine across the area. Temperatures for the afternoon near the 80-degree mark for the region. We're really looking at a pretty warm stretch and pretty dry stretch. I'll talk more about our rain chances and what that means in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Well, Butte police suspect alcohol was involved in an accident Sunday evening where a car crashed into an apartment building. A 60-year-old Butte man was hospitalized with serious injuries after he crashed this car into the building at Front and Oregon Streets at about 5:30 Sunday. Responders had to use the jaws of life to remove the trapped driver, and the vehicle had been speeding north on Harrison Avenue when it lost control on a curve onto Front Street before slamming into the building, and one resident was in the building at the time of the crash.
It sounded really like a bomb going off. It sounded like a hand grenade or like a decent sized bomb going off on the side of my house. Like, I'm gonna be realistic. That's kind of what it sounded like. It also seemed like that because there was dust and everything all over the place. It really seemed like a bomb went off.
The driver has since been taken to an undisclosed medical facility in another city for further treatment. The incident remains under investigation. And 22-year-old Austin King has been missing since he last called friends and family at the summit of Eagle Peak in southeastern Yellowstone. King was on a 7-day hiking trip in an area called the Thoroughfare, one of the most remote areas of the lower 48. Search and rescue teams from Yellowstone, Grand Teton, and Park and Teton counties in Wyoming have been involved in an aerial and ground operation since early September 21st. Later that night, teams located King's personal items near Howell Creek area. King is 6 foot, 160 pounds with brown hair and hazel eyes. He was wearing a black sweatshirt and gray sweatpants. Anyone with any information regarding King's whereabouts should contact Yellowstone Interagency Communications at 307-344-2643. And Butte police have not released the identity of a dead body discovered on a hiking trail just west of Butte Sunday evening. A person walking a Bluebird Trail reported finding the body at about 5:30 Sunday evening, about a quarter-mile west of the Montana Tech campus. Police describe the victim as an adult male and possibly a transient. Police say no signs of foul play were found, and the remains are being examined by the state crime lab to determine a cause of death. And the Montana Secretary of State's office says it's resolved an issue after an overseas voter reported not all candidates appeared on their electronic ballot. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Amberian has a closer look at what happened.
A federal law says that military members, their families, and other U.S. citizens living overseas can vote through a special absentee ballot procedure. The Montana Secretary of State's office says their electronic system for those voters had to be temporarily taken down on Friday after an issue that led to some ballots not displaying correctly. The federal government requires overseas and military voters be able to vote at least 45 days before the election. Montana opened its electronic absentee system for those voters on Friday morning. But an article in the Daily Interlake says a Flathead County man living abroad soon reported his electronic ballot didn't include Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris. He reached out to election officials about the issue, and Secretary of State Christy Jacobson's office said in a statement that they took the system offline, worked with their vendor to troubleshoot the problem, then got the system back up by Friday afternoon. A spokesperson told MTN Monday that they've contacted the affected voter and, quote, no further action is required. The number of voters affected here is likely very small. Jacobson's office says about 350 people used the electronic absentee system during the June primary. They said this won't affect the ballots being printed for mail voters within Montana or polling place voters. Absentee ballots will start going out to voters in the state on October 11th. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
And high stakes and high security in New York City this morning as President Joe Biden is preparing to speak before the United Nations General Assembly today. The speech is likely to be his last major address on the global stage. This comes as tensions rise in the Middle East and Russia's war with Ukraine continues to drag on. CBS's Jared Hill is at the UN headquarters in New York with the latest.
This morning, heightened security in New York after President Joe Biden landed in the city Monday ahead of his final address before the UN General Assembly as Commander-in-Chief. The speech comes as Israel dropped a barrage of missiles on southern Lebanon Monday. Nearly 500 killed, including dozens of women and children, according to Lebanese officials. But Israel says each target was a location used for storing Hezbollah weapons. The U.S. designated terror group has escalated attacks on Israel in solidarity with Hamas since the October 7th attacks.
It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens.
The Pentagon Monday announced plans to send a small number of additional U.S. troops to the Middle East, bolstering the nearly 40,000 already stationed in the region. The State Department also urging Americans in Lebanon to leave while commercial flights are still available.
My team is in constant contact with their counterparts, and we're working to de-escalate.
In his address, President Biden is expected to highlight the U.S.'s role in defending Ukraine, managing competition with China, and ongoing efforts to strike a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. But experts say the real work will happen out of the spotlight.
The meetings on the margins of the General Assembly between world leaders that we don't actually get to listen to or take part in is likely where we'll see the more substantive discussion.
But little hope much here will move the needle. Jared Hill, CBS News.
And President Biden has a number of those bilateral meetings scheduled, but nothing with Israel's prime minister as of now. Netanyahu's trip has been delayed because of the clashes with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Lebanon's prime minister canceled his trip to the UN, citing concerns about war breaking out. Now, a little bit closer to home, according to Zillow, the median rent in Boseman is $2,500 per month. One of the reasons why Boseman's mayor held a Q&A yesterday on where the city stands on affordable housing. Our Edgar Cedillo was there and explains what the mayor had to say in reaction from residents.
On Monday, Bozeman Mayor Terry Cunningham addressed the state of affordable housing in the city of Bozeman. Right behind me is one of those projects that he highlighted that is set to bring affordable housing units online in the next coming years.
I'm sure there's a ways to go.
Daniel Carty lives in Bozeman, and he came to the Ellen Theater on Monday to listen to Mayor Terry Cunningham's update on affordable housing. But before the meeting, he handed out a sheet with ideas on how to address the lack of affordable housing.
One of the things I disagree with is I don't think we need to give developers incentives under the affordable housing ordinance.
Carty's concern is that more density will lead to more environmental impacts.
But I think affordable housing needs to be built in a way that is environmentally responsible and sustainable.
In Cunningham's talk, he brought up tools that the city uses to promote affordable housing, including low-income tax credits, and the ways that he says that the city is also limited in building more.
That can help us address the affordable housing issue in Bozeman. More opportunities to come.
Cunningham says in the last couple of years, the city has seen around 350 affordable units be completed.
One of the messages we wanted to get out today is that there have been hundreds of people being benefited right now.
Cunningham says around 370 units are currently under construction and around 1,100 are currently proposed.
Living in affordable housing units that have been developed in the last 4 or 5 years, more are coming out of the ground where hundreds of people will be able to benefit from those.
Cunningham says that hosting this talk comes at a time as the city looks to tackle the Unified Development Code update and the Affordable Housing Ordinance.
We are going to try to be respectful of the land and our resources and our water by developing at a denser level.
I think affordable housing is certainly important, but I think affordable housing needs to be built in a way that is environmentally responsible.
In Boseman, Edgar Cidio, MTN News.
And it's no secret that many Montanans love their beer, especially when it's brewed right here in the state. According to the Montana Brewers Association, there are nearly 100 breweries located around Montana, ranking the state as the 3rd highest state in breweries per capita. With an updated look at the industry, here's David J.
The craft brewing industry is experiencing just a little bit of downsizing. Those in the business say it's not at a crisis. Nationwide, it's more of a concern in the bigger cities, but here in Billings, they say it's a fairly healthy beer market.
That's going to go from the kettle here into these tanks, and that's where it'll ferment.
Shay Dawson and his wife own Thirsty Street Brewing Company, one of several craft breweries in Billings.
Brewers are doing still pretty well here.
His business has been able to prosper by showcasing local musicians, hosting fundraisers for nonprofits, and being a place for community bonding.
Our customer base, for example, many of them know each other. They expect to see each other every Tuesday and Wednesday, or whatever it is.
Craft beer production has fallen 2 straight years nationwide, according to a Brewers Association study. Dawson attributes any downturn to COVID and changing consumer habits.
Gen Z, they really, I think there's a large percentage of them that don't drink.
According to the Montana Brewers Association, the Treasure State has consistently ranked in the top 3 for breweries per capita the last 10 years. More recently, the growth has been flat.
Liquor has trended up while beer has trended down.
Matt Leo, Montana Brewers Association Executive Director, says the market is healthy, but also points to COVID, along with aluminum can shortages and other beverages, is contributing to the slight downturn.
90% of craft beer drinkers indicate drinking at least one other category.
Meadowlark Brewing owner and founder Travis Peterson says 10 years ago there were about 2,400 breweries nationwide, and now it's close to 10,000.
We're seeing a natural shrinking of the number of breweries that are out there.
Peterson and his wife started the business in Sydney. The loss of the Bakken oil production has led to fewer customers. Meadowlark now brews in Billings, and the majority of its beer sales are in cans, brewed from locally grown grains.
Montanans in particular are really proud to support local businesses, and we're very local.
Like Thirsty Street, Meadowlark diversifies and has a restaurant, a pickleball court, and hosts events.
People look to us as a great place to hang out, great place to come with families.
And they say 2 new breweries set to open in Billings indicates a good future for craft beer.
It's good for our community of craft brewers when there's more of us around.
Beer's been a part of our society for hundreds and hundreds of years, so I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Really fascinating. We're learning something new every single day. All right, before we head into a break, speaking of learning something new, I didn't know, Matt, we could go to a competition over jigsaw puzzles. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I'm not shocked.
I kind of am.
Are you?
I thought it was just a fun pastime.
You know, the problem that I see
here, take it competitively.
I don't mind jigsaw puzzles. I just hate the pieces on the ground.
Look at how serious some of these kids are taking
they got it down.
I think I see a bead of sweat coming off of some of their foreheads. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, this is how the pros do it. I don't see anybody making the border first, which is usually my method of attack.
No.
They're going well, I think they're going color, Matt, on that one.
I think they are.
Oh, whoa.
Get out of here.
Done. Absolutely crushed the competition.
The other kid has 50 pieces left.
Yeah, I would still be looking at the box. I'd still be trying to get the bag open.
Yep.
It's just insane. Some of these, wait. Oh, shit, that's
delicate.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right, bringing it home to Norway, it looks like.
I guess.
World champion jigsaw puzzler.
I like it slow paced.
Yeah, putting a movie on.
There you go.
Drinking a cup of coffee.
That sounds great.
But maybe I got to go faster now. I have an ambition
you're doing it
now.
Wrong.
And now I have a goal to meet. All right, quick break coming your way. When we come back, though, time to take a look at that forecast. We are going to take a peek at those top stories, and you are not going to want to miss this. We are calling it the Summer of Iris. You are not going to want to miss these worldwide sensations that are right here in our own backyard. We'll have that story for you coming up in just a bit.